Thank you. Okay, thanks very much for this opportunity to talk to you about Industry 4.0 and what does it mean for you, what does it mean for me, what does it mean for our organizations. As we talk about Industry 4.0 all the time, one of my most frequently used opening slides is this opening lines from one of the best books written of all times. You know why this book is famous? Has anybody read this book? Yeah, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. What makes this book very famous? Anybody can tell me what makes this book very famous? Raymond, you raised your hand. Charles Dickens, that's one of it. He's the author. What makes this book very famous? Don't remember. This book is famous because this book has the best opening lines ever written in English literature. And that is what we could remember this book from. The opening lines go something like this. It says, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. We were all going direct to heaven, we were all going direct the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period. And there are no better lines ever written in English literature. And what do they talk about? They talk about the two cities of London and Paris. The stage is set somewhere in the 1800s. And for a set of people, they were very excited about the future because of the revolution. The future meant a lot of promise. And for the set of people who were part of the old regime, they were paranoid. Paranoid about what the future held for them because there was a change. And as you look at the business community, I see a very similarity. I call it a tale of two companies. On one hand, you have a company like Walmart, about $481 billion of revenue, much bigger than the GDP of many of the countries that we operate in Southeast Asia. Growing at about 2.8%, at a $481 billion, 2.8% is an incredible growth rate. And also delivering what is the best-in-class margin for a global retail company, 2.83% net margin. And their market cap is roughly $260 billion. Let's compare and contrast that with Amazon. Almost 1/3 the size of Walmart, but look at their growth rate, 30%. What if the GDP of Malaysia grew by 30%? Wouldn't that be good? All our salaries would grow 20%, that would be good. The net profit margin, in fact for Amazon, they hardly make margin in the retail business. They make margin mostly in their IT services business. But their market cap, this market cap data is a few weeks old. I'm told it crossed $1 trillion. And what is the key difference between these two companies? You look at the underlying difference is the number of patents filed. So what makes Amazon so successful? The CEO of Amazon walks in every day to office. He's named the building that he walks in every day. He's named that building Day 1 North. He wants to be reminded every day that he walks into office that today is day 1 of my business. I will pursue the business with the same energy, passion, and enthusiasm. Okay, thanks very much for this opportunity to talk to you about Industry 4.0 and what does it mean for you, what does it mean for me, what does it mean for our organizations. As we talk about Industry 4.0 all the time, one of my most frequently used opening slides is this opening lines from one of the best books written of all times. You know why this book is famous? Has anybody read this book? Yeah, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. What makes this book very famous? Anybody can tell me what makes this book very famous? Raymond, you raised your hand. Charles Dickens, that's one of it. He's the author. What makes this book very famous? Don't remember. This book is famous because this book has the best opening lines ever written in English literature. And that is what we could remember this book from. The opening lines go something like this. It says, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. We were all going direct to heaven, we were all going direct the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period. And there are no better lines ever written in English literature. And what do they talk about? They talk about the two cities of London and Paris. The stage is set somewhere in the 1800s. And for a set of people, they were very excited about the future because of the revolution. The future meant a lot of promise. And for the set of people who were part of the old regime, they were paranoid. Paranoid about what the future held for them because there was a change. And as you look at the business community, I see a very similarity. I call it a tale of two companies. On one hand, you have a company like Walmart, about $481 billion of revenue, much bigger than the GDP of many of the countries that we operate in Southeast Asia. Growing at about 2.8%. At a $481 billion, 2.8% is an incredible growth rate. And also delivering what is the best-in-class margin for a global retail company, 2.83% net margin. And their market cap is roughly $260 billion. Let's compare and contrast that with Amazon. Almost one-third the size of Walmart, but look at their growth rate, 30%. What if the GDP of Malaysia grew by 30%? Wouldn't that be cool? All our salaries would grow 30%, that would be cool. The net profit margin, in fact for Amazon, they hardly make margin in the retail business. They make margin mostly in their IT services business. But their market cap, this market cap data is a few weeks old. I'm told it crossed $1 trillion. And what is the key difference between these two companies? You look at the underlying difference is the number of patents filed. So what makes Amazon so successful? The CEO of Amazon walks in every day to office. He's named the building that he walks in every day. He's named that building Day 1 North. He wants to be reminded every day that he walks into office that today is day 1 of my business. I will pursue the business with the same energy, passion, and enthusiasm that I founded this company 20 years ago. He uses that enthusiasm. He also says today is day 1 of the internet. I've hardly achieved less than 1% of the potential of what the internet can do to your and my life. That is what he says. So we see this onslaught, and part of this change is driven by a huge amount of capital that is coming into the market by individuals like Masayoshi Son of Japan, who is the founder of SoftBank. About a year and a half ago, he set up a fund. He called it the Vision Fund. That raised $100 billion to invest in changing the future. It is a vision fund, so he is not talking about making profits today. He's talking about changing our habits. He invests in companies like the Uber, the Grab, the Gojeks of this world. And he's ready to lose money because he's betting on changing the future. It was not enough to do 100 billion. He's now setting up Vision Fund 2, Vision Fund 3. He wants to raise $1 trillion. $1 trillion. Now what happens when this kind of capital finds its way to the market? So when I started my career many years ago, just 5 years ago, right? You had an option. You used to work for a small company or a big company. Now, if you studied in the IITs and the IIMs of the world in India, then you join the big companies, the big fish. Others join the smaller companies. And what used to happen? There was only one way. The big companies acquire the small companies and they become bigger. But this amount of capital that companies like Masayoshi Son of SoftBank have made available in the marketplace has created a completely different environment. The market has become completely crowded. There are lots of small companies who all have access to capital. I remember asking my professor 25 years ago, is it not easier to start a business today than it was 20 years ago? He couldn't answer that question, but I think you and I know the answer today. It is so easy today to start a new business. Because the access to capital, access to technology, the access to ability to even lose money for a sustained period of time to be able to grow the business is available today. The result of this phenomenon is that what we are seeing is the companies like Walmart are being attacked. Are being attacked and getting attacked by a phenomenon of what we call death by 1,000 cuts. So companies are not dying of the Kodak moment of filing for bankruptcy. What companies are happening is they're not dying of heart attack. They're slowly bleeding to death. So the first sign is growth rate is not there. Revenues are flat. Margins are under pressure. And that is happening because those thousands of small fishes are all attacking this big fish. And these small fishes don't need to make profit today. Because companies like Masayoshi-san says, go, it is okay, attack. Because the big companies have become very inefficient. So you have, in this particular slide, I've captured the logistics industry. The logistics industry today is well known for companies like DHL and UPS, all of these large companies who said we manage the entire supply chain end to end. So much so they said, in order to drive the efficiency, I will own my own aeroplanes. That is what they said. I will tell you where your parcel is at any given point in time. But they've become so big, they've become inefficient. The small fishes find great opportunity in driving value out of that inefficiency. So what they say is, hey, DHL says I will only deliver the parcel between 8 and 6 in the evening. That is terrible. I will deliver the parcel to the customer when he wants it, where he wants it, at the time he wants it. And therefore companies like last mile delivery have come about. And there are so many opportunities to innovate. They work with partners like Grab and Uber to reduce the cost of delivery. They leverage technology, put in AI. So it is suddenly possible for small companies to go ahead and do this. So what this entire thing is what Raymond talked about is actually the fourth industrial revolution. And to put it in context, the first industrial revolution was about the steam engine. And I think it is important to understand that. What did the steam engine do? Because prior to steam engine, there were horse carriages. If you wanted to go from one place to another, you depended on the horse. The horse would get tired after going, let's say, 50 kilometers. He needed to rest, right? But suddenly you had steam engine, and steam engine meant that you could actually go and travel a lot of distances. People from rural areas could go to urban areas to find work. You could make goods in one location and you could transport it to another location. It changed the dynamics of the business. Horse carriages became not stylish anymore. The fourth industrial revolution is quite similar in that sense, but it is not the steam. Today it is the disruptive technologies that are the steam. The disruptive technologies are bringing that same power that steam engine brought way back in the 1800s, 1900s to today's business. And it is for us to understand it. So what is the principal difference between the previous industrial revolution and this industrial revolution? What is the difference between industrial revolution 2, 3 and 4? Right? So for me, it captured in this slide. This is the most important slide for today's talk. The fourth industrial revolution is all about this one slide. So on the y-axis, I talk about value, the value that we create. And on the x-axis, we talk about the resource. So all of us, when we do our business planning, when we do our annual reviews, we all say, hey, I want 5% growth. I want 7% growth, and we're very happy with it. But the fourth industrial revolution is not about that. The fourth industrial revolution is about exponential growth. How can we drive exponential growth in our revenues, right? So most of us, when we do our planning on that blue line. I will achieve it, I will invest 2 more sales resources, my revenues will grow 10%. But what we need to think about is, hey, if I invest 2, can I get 20? Is that possible? Can I get that exponential curve? And if it doesn't answer this question, that means you are still playing the game of the old industrial revolution. So we need to start asking ourselves, the strategies that we are adopting, is that giving us an ability to drive that exponential growth? That is why Amazon is growing at 30% a year. They don't talk about growing 5% a year. They talk about 5% a week. When companies like Grab are growing, they say, hey, are we adding 5% more rides a week? That is the metric that we are using to drive that growth. So how many of you want to grow your salaries 5% a week in this room? First step to earning that money is to have the conviction that you can earn that money. So all of you do. Okay, so I'm going to give you a secret as to how will we go about participating and driving growth in the fourth industrial revolution. How do we drive that exponential growth curve? Is it possible? Now it is quite possible that if you are a big company, you have $1 billion turnover, you cannot grow at 30% overnight. But clearly there are parts of our business that we can grow in a similar manner. Right? So we need to start somewhere. There are parts of our personal compensation plan that we can grow in a similar manner. So I want to walk you through a model that we have developed in Frost Sullivan. We call it the Innovation Kaleidoscope. To help us achieve this growth in the fourth industrial revolution, or to help us achieve that exponential growth curve, we need to study three things. The number one thing is the outer circle. We all need to study disruptive technologies. And there are thousands of disruptive technologies like robotics and AI and blockchain and new kinds of materials. We'll discuss that very shortly. The second thing we need to study is we need to study the megatrends. Because people like Jeff Bezos, they're not working on solving today's problems. They are working on solving the problems of tomorrow. They are trying to anticipate what the problems will be 2 or 3 or 5 years from today and working on solving that today. Working on creating solutions for those problems that we're going to face in the future. The third thing we need to study is the study of industry convergence. Because the industries as we know it are no longer relevant. What business is Amazon? Is it an IT company? Is it a technology company? Is it a logistics company? Now is it a healthcare company? It's so difficult to define what kind of a company they are. So the definitions, Raymond said, my daughter is going to grow up. Man, I don't think she's going to be in the healthcare industry because the healthcare industry will not exist. It is going to be redefined as something else. So we need to study what the convergence of these industries are going to be, and therefore what role our companies and what role that we will play in that future scenario. So let's start with the first circle. I'll take you through some examples of each of the 3 circles, and hopefully we'll connect the dots, and that will help us better prepare for the future. So let's start with the first circle, the study of disruptive technology, and why the study of disruptive technology is important. So this is a quote by this is not by our friend who said, who was it? Def Leppard or who is that? Aerosmith. It is not Aerosmith, sorry, but it is the Group Chief Operating Officer of JP Morgan Chase. And what he said is, oh, we are not a bank. We are a technology company which is delivering banking services. And that is very fundamentally different as a company. And they're just not saying it, they're actually doing it in action. These big financial institutions of the world are filing patents. And they're not filing patents for financial services, they are filing technology patents. They're filing technology patents in the area of mobile, Internet of Things. So much so that about 18 to 20% of their employees are technology employees. So they are hardwired. And these 18 to 20% of employees are not managing the PCs and the networks. They're actually doing core development. They're actually inventing the future technologies that will help them provide banking services better to customers. Now there are so many disruptive technologies, it is impossible for us to study all of them. So what we do at Frost Sullivan is we have tried to shortlist the top 50 technologies. We study over 3,000 of them, and we have shortlisted the top 50 technologies. We have compartmentalized that into 9 core sectors. The information communication technologies, one sector. You have the healthcare, you have advanced manufacturing and automation. I think most of us are passionate about the information communication technology. And out there it is technologies like blockchain, technologies like artificial intelligence, natural language systems, 5G, mixed reality, augmented reality. These are the ones that are the foremost technologies that are having a powerful impact. So you need to look at these technologies and say, hey, which of these technologies make sense for my business? What do I do about it? You may not invent these technologies, but clearly you need to know how to use these technologies and apply these technologies. The most commonly used 7 or 8 technologies are on this slide. It starts with something like a big data, where it is not, because big data changes the way we look at problems. Companies like Amazon filed a patent about 5 years ago, and they call it anticipatory shipping. So what they're saying is they're going to ship the product to you even before you buy it, because they know what you're going to buy before you decide to buy it. It is as simple, because they can see the power of communities and the messaging that works around us, that they know exactly what you're going to do. So imagine the implication of that on healthcare, that we can solve a problem before that problem happens. It changes the way we will deliver that service. And there are other technologies like augmented reality, etc. But I do think we haven't even exploited the full potential even of the most basic technology, which is the mobile phone itself. We use the mobile phone largely for our Facebook, WhatsApp and communication, not really for our business. Not really to say how do we leverage it to run our business processes a lot better. And there is a lot of opportunity there. One of the other things I just recently found out is Amazon filed a patent. And this patent, they call it flying warehouse. So what they've done is they've come up with an algorithm, and they say that they actually maintain their warehouse about 30,000 feet above the ground. And they will ship the product from 30,000 feet above the ground. Because they believe when you ship something from that high, you need very little energy. And the robots, the flying drones can come down and deliver the product to you, Bobby, where you are, on which part of Bukit Gilgam Street, at what time of the day. Right? So you can imagine how these companies are beginning to think about inventing the future. They may not actually do this, but they're actually working on creating ideas, and some of these ideas will translate into potential products and services of the future. So that was the study of disruptive technologies. Now let's go to the next part, which is the study of megatrends. And we at Frost Sullivan have been studying megatrends for almost now 11 years. And principally we focus always on these 12 major megatrends, starting from urbanization to the megatrend of bricks and clicks, or the megatrend of business model innovation. Urbanization as a megatrend continues to grow. People continue to be attracted to move from rural areas to the urban centers. And as people move to urban centers, there is a lot of congestion. Traffic problems are increasing. Right? And there are many, many trends that evolve as a result of it. So if you look at something like urbanization and the megatrend of urbanization, we have seen now that has given rise to this trend of co-working or co-living. Companies like Common Ground and WeWork are all a direct result of the growing trend of urbanization. Because people are looking for solutions more efficient way. Our cubicle spaces are getting smaller and smaller. And the reason WeWork and Common Ground are doing well is because they are driving better efficient utilization of the space. They are extracting value by giving us less than 50 to 60 square feet per employee. And better utilizing the common spaces. And the same trend is happening with living. Our apartments are going to get smaller and smaller, and we're going to use more and more of shared facilities, be it entertainment rooms or kitchens, etc. So this trend of co-working and co-living is fast gathering momentum. I will spend a little bit more time on the mega trend of business model innovation, because I think this is an area where all of us spend almost no time or very, very little time. The biggest opportunity for growth or value creation is in business model innovation. What this slide tells you, on the first line is the volume of innovation efforts that companies have put in over the last 10 years. And you can see most companies put in their effort in developing a new product or a new system. And if you look at the slide below, you see that the most value creation is happening. The most value creation is happening actually in business model innovation and in strategic partnerships. That is why companies like WeWork and Uber all have this crazy valuation, because they focus on innovating the business model, not on creating a new product. They've innovated the business model to unlock new value. So what is your business model innovation? So as we study business model innovation, we see there are 3 distinct trends that are emerging in business model innovation that we can spend time on. Number 1, Everything is going to a consumption model, pay as you go. Right? And the IT services industry was one of the first to say, hey, no need to buy expensive software, no need to buy expensive servers. It is all pay as you go. You pay on consumption. So you have access to the best technology and you just pay on consumption. And increasingly we are seeing more examples of that. The second one is that you co-create value. You don't do all the value creation yourself because you will never have enough employees to do that value. So you need to partner with people, strategic partner, be it with your customers, be it with your partners, be it with your suppliers, to create new value for your customers. And we talk about that. And the third one is about personalization. N is equal to 1. I as a customer am unique. Can you deliver some unique experience to me? If you can do that, then I'm willing to pay a premium. We call it N equal to 1. R equal to G means resources are global. How do I leverage the best that the global resources have to offer? So let's take a few examples of how companies have applied this idea of business model innovation of the three things we talked about, which is pay as you go, co-creation, and personalization. One of the first companies to embark on the trend of pay as you go was Adobe. Way back in 2012, Adobe took a big decision. The CEO took a big decision saying, we're not going to ship our software on CDs anymore. We will move everything to a pay-as-you-go model. Because what used to happen in the creative industry is when the economy goes down, people don't buy the new software. They delay the replacement cycle. So he said, I got to cut that out. So he started offering Adobe software for between $15 to $20 or $30 per month. And look at what has happened to the stock price. The stock price was at about $22 US. Now it is gone to $249 US. A very simple change in strategy. We all have seen Microsoft now become extremely successful in the last 3 years. What is the one thing Satya Nadella has done? He's made Microsoft a mobile-first, cloud-first company. We all stopped buying Microsoft Office perpetual licenses. We're all doing Microsoft Office 365. Right? He's got us all on a subscription plan. We don't even care about when a new license of Microsoft is launched because they're all bought into the subscription plan. Pay as you go. So what is your pay as you go strategy? As I talk about this pay as you go, say, it applies to IT companies, it doesn't apply to us. This is the common thing that everybody says. So I said, let's give you a few examples. Right? Everything can become pay as you go. Here's an example of a company which says, I do underwear as a service. Because they say, it is so boring to go and buy it, it's not customized, it's not personalized. Let us put on it. Let's put on a platform, I deliver to you one every month or two every month or one every quarter. And guess what they found out? It's not the women who buy it more, it's the men really. Because men are too lazy to go and buy new underwear. So their wives buy it for them and put them on a plan that they get a new underwear every couple of months, right? We all talk about Amazon being an e-commerce company.